Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. I want to begin with a simple truth. Most people overestimate what they can change in a year and underestimate what they can change in just a week. 1 week. That's all it took for me to begin transforming my mindset, my energy, and my direction in life. I'm not talking about a miracle or some shortcut to success. I'm talking about small, powerful habits consistently practiced that lit a fire inside me and changed the way I live. So today I'm going to share with you 5 habits that changed my life in just 1 week. Not because they solved every problem, but because they shifted my momentum. And momentum is everything. Your life won't change overnight, but your direction can, starting in just 1 week. This simple truth holds more power than most people realize. We often think transformation requires a complete overhaul, new environment, new resources, new circumstances. But the reality is, life doesn't usually change with massive events. It changes with subtle shifts in direction, repeated consistently. 1 week is all it takes to begin moving away from what's draining you and toward what's meant for you. Think of life like a ship at sea. If the ship alters its course by just 1 degree, at first the change seems insignificant. But over time, that slight shift will land the ship in a completely different destination. The same is true for our habits, thoughts, and routines. In 1 week, you may not look any different and your external world might still be the same, but something inside you will begin to reorient. That internal shift is where true transformation begins. What makes this possible is intentional action. You don't need to fix everything at once. You don't need to know the full plan. You only need to decide that you're no longer willing to stay where you are. And that decision, it doesn't take a lifetime. It takes a moment. From that moment, 1 week of consistent effort can start the momentum. The key is direction, not perfection. 1 week of waking up with purpose instead of scrolling mindlessly. 1 week of moving your body, even if just for a walk. 1 week of writing your thoughts instead of suppressing them. 1 week of speaking to yourself with encouragement instead of criticism. 1 week of saying no to what drains you and yes to what strengthens you. These are not radical, dramatic acts. They are small, deliberate choices that slowly but surely rebuild your identity. The beautiful thing about shifting your direction is that it's fully within your control. You may not be able to control your circumstances, your past, or other people, but you can always choose your next step. That's what gives even 1 week so much power. You're not trying to change your whole life by next Monday. You're simply choosing to lean into a new path, one that is more aligned with who you truly want to be. What happens when you do that? You feel it. You begin to gain self-trust. You begin to feel pride again. You notice your energy coming back. The fog lifts. You start to feel more grounded, more hopeful. Even if no one else notices the changes yet, you do. And that's what keeps the momentum alive. People often wait for a perfect time to change, after the holidays, after the promotion, after the pain fades. But life doesn't wait. Time passes whether we move forward or stay stuck. So why not start now? Why not give yourself just 1 week to see what could shift if you truly showed up for yourself? You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. This isn't about becoming someone new overnight. It's about honoring who you are, taking small steps with intention, and pointing yourself toward a life that feels more authentic, more fulfilling, and more aligned. Change doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it starts quietly, in a decision, in a journal entry, in a walk, in a sunrise. Your direction is everything, and the moment you choose a better one, your life has already started to change. All it takes is 1 week of showing up with purpose. 1 week of believing that you're capable of something more. 1 week of choosing alignment over autopilot. And when that week is over, you'll realize you're no longer the same person who started it. You're moving. And that movement is the beginning of everything. Waking up early gives you control before the world demands your attention. It's not just about getting out of bed before sunrise. It's about reclaiming ownership over your time, your thoughts, and your energy. In a world that constantly pulls us in 100 different directions, those quiet morning hours become sacred. They are the one part of the day that still belongs fully to you, untouched by texts, emails, demands, and noise. In those early moments, you get to lead your day instead of chasing it. The moment your eyes open early, you're making a powerful statement. I choose to be intentional. You're not waking up in reaction to chaos. You're waking up in preparation for it. Instead of diving straight into other people's needs, you start with your own. Whether it's through movement, journaling, meditation, or silence, the early morning gives you a chance to connect with yourself before the world asks you to connect with everything else. One of the biggest benefits of waking up early is clarity. When the world is still, your thoughts are clearer. There's less distraction, less urgency, and more space to think, reflect, and set your tone for the day. You're not racing against the clock. You're setting the clock. You're not scrambling to keep up. You're preparing to move with purpose. That control over your mindset creates a ripple effect across the rest of your day. When you begin your day in a reactive state, waking up late, rushing out the door, immediately checking messages, you are already behind. You're handing over your mental space to outside forces before you've even had a chance to check in with yourself. That reactive mode becomes your baseline, and it's exhausting. But when you wake up early and claim those first quiet hours for yourself, you create a foundation of calm, strength, and direction. Another powerful aspect of waking up early is the confidence it builds. It's not easy to get out of bed before you have to. It requires discipline, self-respect, and a sense of purpose. But every time you choose to rise early, you reinforce the belief that you are in control of your life. You are not a slave to comfort or laziness. You are someone who leads themselves. That consistency creates inner trust. You begin to believe in your ability to follow through, and that belief carries into every part of your day. It's also important to note that waking up early doesn't mean you have to start doing 10 things before breakfast. It's not about packing your schedule with productivity. It's about giving yourself space. Space to think, to move slowly, to set intentions, or to simply be. Maybe you read, maybe you walk, maybe you sit in silence sipping coffee. What you do isn't as important as the fact that you chose it, that you began your day from a place of personal choice instead of pressure. In a society that constantly asks for your attention, those early hours are your chance to protect it. And that protection is powerful. When you take care of your inner world before stepping into the outer world, you operate from a place of centeredness. You respond instead of react. You decide instead of drift. You lead instead of follow. So waking up early isn't just a habit. It's an act of self-respect. It's you saying, my peace matters. My mind matters. My energy matters. And when you start your day grounded in that truth, everything else begins to align with it. Control, clarity, confidence, all of it begins when you decide to rise before the world tries to pull you under. That one choice, made daily, can shift your entire life. Writing down your intentions turns your mind from chaos to clarity. It may seem like a simple act, putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, but it has the power to transform how you think, how you feel, and how you act. When your thoughts remain stuck in your head, they often swirl around, collide, and multiply. Unspoken worries grow louder. Tasks feel heavier. Ideas slip away before they're fully formed. But when you write things down, you create order out of that mental noise. You take abstract feelings and shape them into something tangible. That's where clarity begins. Intentional writing isn't about journaling for the sake of filling pages. It's about consciously directing your focus toward what matters. It's about asking yourself, what do I want from today? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show? These questions anchor you. They turn drifting into direction. When you write down your intentions, you shift your mindset from passive to proactive. You stop letting the day happen to you and start choosing how you'll meet the day. The beauty of writing intentions is that it forces you to slow down and think. In a world that moves fast and demands constant attention, this pause is powerful. It gives you space to observe your own thoughts instead of being swept away by them. You begin to notice what's important, what's distracting, and what's missing. Clarity isn't always about having all the answers. It's often just about knowing what question to ask next. Writing helps you find that question. There's also something incredibly grounding about starting your day with intention. Whether you write down one word, a sentence, or a short list, it becomes your internal compass. When the distractions come, and they always do, you have something to return to. You can look back at what you wrote and remind yourself, this is what I chose to focus on. This is who I decided to be today. That reminder can cut through the chaos like a lighthouse through the fog. Another benefit is emotional regulation. When your mind feels scattered, it's often because your emotions are unprocessed. Writing allows you to acknowledge what you're feeling without judgment. You create space between yourself and your emotions. You turn overwhelming thoughts into manageable language. That alone can relieve anxiety, reduce stress, and help you feel more in control. Once your emotions are expressed, they stop controlling you, and you gain the power to move forward with greater awareness. Writing intentions also builds consistency. Each time you repeat this practice, you train your mind to seek clarity and stay focused. Over time, it becomes a ritual of self-respect. It shows that you value your time, your energy, and your goals enough to give them attention before anything else. And when life feels unpredictable, this habit becomes an anchor, something stable you can return to no matter what chaos is around you. Most importantly, writing down your intentions is an act of belief. You are declaring that your thoughts matter, that your voice matters, and that your actions have meaning. You're telling the universe and yourself that you are not just drifting through life. You are steering it. Even on the days when motivation feels low or energy is scarce, this small habit keeps you aligned. It helps you remember who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going. So never underestimate the power of writing down your intentions. It may not seem like a big step, but it's a significant one. It's how you go from feeling lost to feeling led, from mental chaos to inner clarity. And when you operate with clarity, your choices become more aligned, your actions more purposeful, and your life more meaningful. Moving your body daily fuels both physical and mental energy. It's one of the most overlooked but most powerful tools for transforming not just your health, but your mindset and emotional state. The body and mind are not separate. They are deeply connected. When you move your body, you're not just working on your muscles or burning calories. You're igniting energy, improving focus, reducing stress, and creating momentum that spills into every other part of your life. Daily movement doesn't need to be intense or complicated. It's not about lifting heavy weights or running marathons unless that's what you love. It's about making a daily commitment to care for your body with intention. That could mean stretching for 10 minutes, going for a walk, doing yoga, dancing in your room, or following a short workout video. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. The simple act of moving sends a signal to your brain, I'm alive, I'm active, I'm taking charge of my energy. When you move your body, you activate your circulatory system, which improves blood flow and delivers more oxygen to your brain. This directly boosts your cognitive function, focus, and mood. That's why even a short burst of movement can help clear mental fog or lift you out of a slump. It's nature's reset button. You're not just changing your body, you're shifting your internal chemistry. Hormones like dopamine and endorphins increase, which help reduce stress and improve your overall sense of well-being. There's also a deeper level of empowerment that comes with daily movement. When you commit to moving your body, you're showing up for yourself. You're proving to your mind that you can follow through on your promises, that you are worthy of care, and that you don't need to wait for motivation to act. That builds self-discipline. And self-discipline creates freedom. The freedom to live with more strength, stability, and emotional balance. Movement also helps you process emotions. When stress, sadness, frustration, or anxiety get stuck in the body, they can weigh you down. Physical activity gives those feelings a place to go. You release what no longer serves you through sweat, breath, and rhythm. Movement becomes a form of therapy, a conversation with your own inner world. It helps you work through what you don't always have words for. Daily movement doesn't have to take hours. In fact, even just 5 to 15 minutes can be enough to shift your state. The key is making it non-negotiable, something you do not because you have to, but because you deserve to. Your body is your home, and how you treat it determines how you experience the world. When you care for it, you show yourself that you are valuable and capable of creating your own energy. There's a common belief that we have to wait to feel good before we move. But often it's the movement itself that generates that feeling. Action precedes emotion. You don't wait for energy, you create it. And once you experience that shift even once, you realize just how powerful your choices are. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need to be in peak shape. You just need a willingness to move, one step, one stretch, one breath at a time. Making movement a daily habit isn't just about changing your body. It's about transforming your relationship with effort, with discipline, and with self-care. When you move, you show up. And when you show up consistently, your life starts to move in a new direction, full of strength, vitality, and mental clarity. That's the real power of daily movement. Limiting digital distractions unlocks deeper focus and creativity. In today's hyper-connected world, our attention is constantly under attack. Notifications, social media feeds, emails, and endless scrolling create an environment where the mind is rarely still and seldom focused. We're pulled in multiple directions by devices designed to capture and monetize our attention. As a result, we lose more than just time. We lose clarity, creativity, and peace. But when you intentionally create boundaries around your digital habits, you begin to reclaim your mind. You start thinking more deeply, working more meaningfully, and living more presently. Every time your phone buzzes, dings, or lights up, your brain is forced to switch gears. This process, called context switching, drains your mental energy faster than you realize. It prevents you from sinking into deep work, and it fragments your ability to think with clarity. Even when notifications are off, the urge to check your phone or browse a website can quietly hijack your focus. Over time, this leads to mental fatigue and a reduced capacity for creative thought. You start reacting to your environment instead of actively shaping it. But something powerful happens when you step away from the noise. When you silence your phone, close the unnecessary tabs, and disconnect from the scroll, you create space. Space to think, space to create, space to breathe. Your mind, no longer overstimulated, begins to recalibrate. You notice your own thoughts again. You hear the quiet voice of intuition that gets drowned out by constant input. That's when creativity starts to come alive, ideas start flowing, problem solving becomes easier. Inspiration surfaces in the silence you once avoided. Limiting digital distractions also improves your ability to be present. When you're not constantly pulled into someone else's agenda or algorithm, you become more rooted in your own reality. You can listen more attentively, engage more deeply, and experience moments with greater richness. This presence isn't just good for your relationships, it's essential for personal fulfillment. Life becomes more meaningful when you're actually in it, not just scrolling through it. Establishing digital boundaries doesn't require extreme measures. It starts with small, intentional changes. turning off non-essential notifications, setting specific times to check email or social media, creating phone-free zones or time blocks where you commit to uninterrupted focus. These small shifts accumulate, and with consistency, they transform your mental landscape. You begin to feel more in control, not just of your time, but of your thoughts and emotions. One of the greatest benefits of digital restraint is that it strengthens your ability to concentrate. Focus is a muscle, and constant distraction weakens it. But when you practice holding your attention on one thing at a time, even for short periods, that muscle begins to rebuild. You become more productive, not because you're doing more, but because you're doing what matters with greater intensity and less mental clutter. Limiting digital distractions is also an act of self-respect. It's you saying, my time and attention are valuable. My mind is not for sale. When you protect your mental space, you elevate your standards, not just for how you spend your time, but for how you live your life. You stop consuming endlessly and start creating intentionally. You stop comparing your life to others and start focusing on your own path. In a world that profits from your distraction, clarity is a form of rebellion, and creativity, it thrives in that clarity. So don't underestimate the power of unplugging. You're not just escaping noise. You're making room for depth, originality, and peace. The fewer distractions you allow, the more of yourself you'll find. And in that space, you'll discover just how powerful your focused mind can truly be. The way you speak to yourself defines how far you'll go. Your internal dialogue isn't just background noise. It shapes your self-perceive, your decisions, and ultimately, your destiny. Every thought you have creates an emotional response, and that emotional response fuels your actions or inaction. If your self-talk is filled with doubt, criticism, or fear, you'll constantly feel like you're climbing uphill with no end in sight. But if you speak to yourself with belief, encouragement, and honesty, you'll move forward with resilience and confidence, even when things get tough. Most people are unaware of how often they talk themselves out of growth. They wake up and immediately think, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, I'm going to fail. That kind of language doesn't just reflect low confidence, it reinforces it. The brain listens to what you say and it adjusts accordingly. You constantly tell yourself that you can't do something, your brain will find evidence to prove you right. Your words become your limits. But here's the truth. Self-talk can be reprogrammed. You are not stuck with the voice that criticizes you, compares you, or diminishes your worth. That voice is often a product of past experiences, external influences, or fear, not truth. And like any habit, it can be changed. The first step is awareness. Begin noticing how you talk to yourself in moments of challenge, failure, or uncertainty. Are you gentle and understanding, or harsh and unforgiving? Once you become aware of the tone and language of your inner voice, you can start to shift it. You don't have to lie to yourself or pretend everything is perfect, but you do have to be kind, honest, and supportive. You can say, this is hard, but I'm capable. Or I've made mistakes, but I'm learning. Or I don't feel confident yet, but I'm working on it. These small shifts change the emotional tone of your mindset from defeat to empowerment. Speaking to yourself with encouragement isn't about toxic positivity. It's about giving yourself the same respect and support you'd offer someone you care about. If a friend came to you feeling discouraged or scared, you wouldn't tear them down. You'd remind them of their strength. You'd help them see their potential. You deserve to do the same for yourself. The way you speak to yourself also affects your persistence. When your inner voice is negative, you're more likely to give up quickly, avoid challenges, or settle for less. But when your self-talk is positive and empowering, you build grit. You start to believe that setbacks are temporary, that mistakes are part of growth, and that success is possible if you keep showing up. This belief becomes a powerful fuel for progress. Over time, positive self-talk helps rewire your brain. Neuroscience has shown that thoughts repeated consistently create new neural pathways. So the more you tell yourself, I can figure this out, the more your brain begins to believe it. Your confidence grows, your resilience strengthens, and your capacity expands. This isn't just theory, it's transformation. At the end of the day, your relationship with yourself is the foundation for everything else. No amount of external validation will matter if your internal dialogue is tearing you down. But when you learn to be your own encourager, your own motivator, your own ally, you become unstoppable. You move through life with a steady sense of worth, direction, and inner power. So be mindful of your words, especially the ones no one else hears. Speak to yourself like someone you want to see win. Because the truth is, the way you speak to yourself will either limit your future or liberate it. Change doesn't require perfect timing, only a decision to begin. One of the biggest lies people believe is that they have to wait for the right moment to change their life. They wait for Monday, for a new month, for the new year, but that perfect moment never really comes. Life remains unpredictable, messy, and full of distractions. And while people wait, time quietly slips by, along with countless opportunities for growth. The truth is, change is not about the calendar. It's about commitment. It's about the decision to stop waiting and start moving, even if the path ahead isn't fully clear. The moment you choose to begin imperfectly, unprepared, and even afraid, you interrupt your old path. You break the cycle of delay and step into motion. That one step, no matter how small, is what opens the door to transformation. People often think they need a full plan to get started, but action creates clarity. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. In fact, most people gain confidence, momentum, and insight through doing. You can read every book, listen to every podcast, or visualize the future in your mind for months, but nothing changes until you take action. Waiting for perfect timing is often just fear in disguise. It's a way to avoid discomfort, risk, or uncertainty. But all change lives on the other side of discomfort. You have to be willing to feel awkward, to struggle, to be a beginner. That's not a weakness. It's part of the process. Every expert once started as a novice. Every transformation began with an uncertain step forward. The difference between people who change and those who don't isn't talent, it's the willingness to begin. Starting before you're ready builds resilience. It teaches you to trust yourself even when conditions aren't ideal. And once you see that progress is possible without perfection, your confidence grows. You realize that you can adapt, figure things out, and adjust as you go. You stop letting circumstances dictate your choices and start taking ownership of your future. The decision to begin is powerful because it puts the control back in your hands. You're no longer a victim of timing or environment. You're not waiting for someone to give you permission. You're saying, I'm ready to take responsibility for my life. That mindset alone sets you apart from the majority of people who spend their lives stuck in someday. You don't have to overhaul your entire life in one day. Small shifts are enough. Waking up 30 minutes earlier, saying no to one bad habit, replacing one negative thought with a positive one, taking one action toward your goal. These small decisions compound over time. What starts as a single decision can become a powerful new direction. You'll never regret starting. You'll only regret waiting too long. Think of all the time you've spent overthinking, doubting, or delaying. None of that has brought you closer to the life you want. But a single moment of courage, the decision to start, can change your story. It can shift your identity from passive to powerful. So stop waiting for life to slow down, for circumstances to be perfect, for fear to disappear. That's not when change happens. Change happens the moment you decide that where you are is no longer where you want to stay. That decision is the spark. Everything else builds from there. It won't be easy. It won't be flawless, but it will be real. And that's where the transformation begins.